Bernabia, here's Anelka again, he's got another chance. Foé is across the area, Anelka looks to find him, the header over the top, Foé still in here, it's 3-1! And Manchester City's Marc-Vivien Foé has punched another one. Well, it's a curious goal really, and you really have to feel for Mike Taylor in the Fulham goal. Anelka was on his way there, right at the edge of the area.
Football is supposed to be about joy, about nations rising, about the game that unites billions. But on June 26, 2003, the world saw something no fan ever forgets. A man collapsed in the middle of a match and never got back up. This is the story of Marc-Vivien Foé, the tireless midfielder, the pride of Cameroon, a man who gave everything for his country, and whose death changed football forever. Moments like this burn into memory. Do you remember where you were when you first heard the name Marc-Vivien Foé? Or when you saw the images of that day? Born in Yaoundé in 1975, Marc-Vivien Foé was never the most technically gifted, but he had something even rarer: stamina. He ran and ran and ran. Coaches called him the engine. By the 1990s, Cameroon was producing legends, including Roger Milla, Thomas Nkono, and Samuel Eto'o. Into this golden generation stepped Foé, a midfielder who would do the dirty work so stars could shine. He joined French club Lens, then Lyon, and then moved to England with West Ham and Manchester City. Everywhere he went, he became beloved. Fans admired his smile. Teammates admired his lungs of steel. By 2003, he wasn't just a player. He was Cameroon's heartbeat. And in the Confederations Cup that summer, he was chasing one last dream: to lead his country to glory on a world stage. Today, we see players who run endlessly, who give their all for the badge. Who comes to mind for you, the modern engine who reminds you of Foé? June 26, 2003, semi-final of the Confederations Cup. Cameroon versus Colombia. The stakes were high. The atmosphere is electric. And Foé, as always, was everywhere, covering every blade of grass. But in the 72nd minute, something unthinkable happened. Without contact, without warning, Marc-Vivien Foé collapsed near the center circle. At first, players thought he was tired. Then the silence spread. Teammates screamed for help. Medics rushed on. But Foé lay still. For 45 minutes, doctors fought. Oxygen, defibrillators, CPR. But nothing worked. At 28 years old, Marc-Vivien Foé was gone. The cause? Hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, an undetected heart condition that can strike without warning. The kind that gives no second chance. If this could happen to one of the fittest men in football, what does it mean for every player who steps onto the pitch? Should the game demand heart screenings for all professionals? The shock was immediate. Fans in Lyon wept. Commentators struggled for words. In Cameroon, the nation fell into mourning. In the dressing room, Samuel Eto'o cried uncontrollably. Rigobert Song, Foé's captain and cousin, later said, "I felt like I lost my brother that day." Even Colombia's players, moments after their own defeat, stood in silence. The sport itself felt irrelevant. Days later, the final between France and Cameroon became surreal. Players walked out carrying a giant portrait of Foé. Thierry Henry kissed it before kickoff.
On pense tout sauf au football, quoi. On pense à sa famille, on pense à ses proches, et puis au personnage qu'il était. C'était un mec extraordinaire, et c'était le grand frère dans un groupe, c'était celui qui montrait la voie, donc c'est dur d'apprendre un décès, surtout d'un rock comme lui, quoi.
Sur le terrain, on a souffert sportivement. On pense bien sûr à Marco maintenant, parce que c'était pas évident pour nous qui le connaissions bien et tous ses partenaires ou anciens coéquipiers, donc ça a été très dur aujourd'hui.
When France lifted the trophy, they refused to celebrate. Instead, they comforted Cameroon. the world had lost more than a footballer. It had lost a symbol of endurance, joy, and sacrifice. In moments like these, football feels small, but the show goes on, sometimes too soon. Do you think matches should continue after tragedies, or should the game stop, just as the heartbeat of a nation has stopped? Marc-Vivien Foé's death was not in vain. His tragedy forced football to change. FIFA introduced stricter medical checks for players. Defibrillators became mandatory in stadiums. Doctors received improved training. The stigma surrounding heart screenings began to fade. So when Fabrice Muamba collapsed in 2012, CPR and a defibrillator saved him. When Christian Eriksen fell in 2021, medics revived him on the pitch. These lives were saved in part because football had already lost Foé. His sacrifice forced the game to prepare. Beyond medicine, his legacy lived in fans. Lyon retired his number 17 shirt. Manchester City honored him. Cameroon named a stadium after him. His family created a foundation to fight heart disease. Marc-Vivien Foé became more than a footballer. He became a guardian. Every player saved today owes something to their memory. Protocols have improved. Lives have been saved. But still, is football doing enough to protect its players from the hidden dangers within their own hearts? 40,000 mourners filled the streets of Yaoundé for his funeral. The indomitable lions, his brothers, carried his coffin. To this day, Cameroonians say Foé did not die on the pitch. He gave his life to football, to his team, to his people. Every chant, every tribute, every time medics save a life on the field, his spirit is there. Marc-Vivien Foé was only 28, but in those 28 years, he ran farther, harder, and truer than most ever will. And for that, he will always be remembered not just as a tragedy, but as a lion. What if every major tournament honored those who gave their lives for the game? Should Marc-Vivien Foé and others like him be remembered on football's biggest stages every year? Marc-Vivien Foé's story is not just about loss. It's about resilience. It's about how one man's sacrifice changed football forever. He was an engine that never stopped running, and in many ways, he still hasn't. His legacy lives on every time medics save a life, every time a fan sings his name, every time we remember that football is more than a game. If this story moved you, share it, so more people remember Foé, not just as a tragedy, but as a lion whose roar still echoes in football today. And tell us, how should we honor heroes like him? Because sometimes, remembering is the most powerful victory of all.
Every legend starts somewhere. Two worlds, one game, infinite dreams. Yet 99% of talent is never discovered. From nothing to glory isn't just content, it's a movement. 23,000 smart fans, 50 countries, one family. Your journey from nothing to glory starts now. From nothing to glory, where legends are born.